Hey guys, welcome back to the restroom. As you can see, we have a new unit. If you've been following us on our socials, like on Instagram or Facebook, at the restroom, then you would have seen that we've been moving cars and obviously stuff backwards and forwards. Just a quick overview. Basically, I've moved jobs, so I couldn't go up to the units in the evenings, and that just sort of messed up our little routine. So we had stuff going on. Like I said, I started a new job, and Ben was busy with other things, so we didn't really have much time to go up the unit the last few months. So everything sort of ground to a halt. But this new unit now is sort of giving us a bit of a kick in the right direction to get back into it. Although we haven't got quite everything in here, we're missing like workbenches, that sort of thing. But we've got all the vehicles in. So we've got obviously my van here. The camera is currently on Ben's Beetle, and in the back you may spy the Starlet in its usual position, stuffed in the back of the unit. So it is a little bit smaller, this unit, but it's a lot nicer, as you can probably tell. Much better lighting, all that sort of thing, than our last unit. I may as well just get straight into it. Today I'm going to start on the van, finally. One of the first videos that we ever put up was me rebuilding the engine for the van, because currently what's in it, I'll just show you. So just a quick overview of the van. I don't think I ever did a sort of build review, as you call it, on this, but I've had this van for about 7 years now. I bought it pretty much standard, and as you can see, done quite a few mods to it. Doesn't look like your normal Maestro van anymore, so it is a lot lower. I think approximately 100 mil at the front and 3.5 inches, whatever that equates to, at the back. So it's quite a lot lower than standard, because they come on sort of stilts from factory. But it's got the original A series in it, but as you can tell, I've put a turbo on it. So it is the turbo stuff off they did a Maestro turbo, which was a factory option with the A series. It's got a T3 Garrett turbocharger on it, which is way too big, but they put that on there to basically introduce lag to stop the engines from blowing up. Well, more specifically the gearboxes, because on a Maestro and a Mini the gearbox is in the sump, whereas on a Maestro it's on the end there. It's actually a Volkswagen gearbox. It's a bit of a weird way of doing things. Any keen A-series or Mini enthusiast would know that this engine is 180 degrees the other way around than in the Mini as well. So yeah, the turbo's down there on the front. You've got the plenum chamber, and I've got a intercooler in there. And I've had it going like this for probably about 5 years, maybe. So I got the original engine rebuilt, just NA. And at the time, I would have done an engine swap on that at the time, but it was cheaper, weirdly, for insurance purposes in the UK here, to turbo and modify this engine. It was a lot cheaper on my insurance than to engine swap it. So I did all that, and so it's made about 110 horsepower, which is, it was about 65, I think, NA. I got it tuned 65 dynoed, and then, yes, it was dynoed just under 110 when I got it dynoed, but did a few other things. So yeah. 110 brake, I would say, and I think about 130 foot-pounds. And it effectively doubled the wheel horsepower. So it made a big difference. It was twice as quick, and it made all mad turbo noises and stuff, as you may have seen. If you look back at our video of taking it to Goodwood, then you can see, there's videos of it on the track around Goodwood, etc. So have a look at that if you are more interested in that. But as always with cars, you want them faster. So again, quite a few years ago now, probably about 3 years ago, I bought the 2 litre. So what I have here is the 2 litre turbo engine out of a Montego turbo or Maestro turbo, and this is effectively a much bigger bore version of the Maestro turbo engine. So obviously it's not an A series, it's actually an O series, but it's the same carburetor blow-through turbo setup on here that it is on my current engine, which is what appealed it to me, because I know how that all works. So it's just effectively much bigger bore and much more power, obviously going from a 1.3 to a 2 litre. So if you go back and look for one of our first videos, you can see the sort of recommission I did on this engine. It was new, big end bearings and rings, and I did the tappet shims as well. So I had the head gasket, obviously had the head skimmed, all the valves re-lapped in. I think they had to be recut actually. But so it's had quite a lot of work, and then it's just been sat here. So because I was going to do it, but then at the time I got the TVR up again. If you look at all our back on our playlists, actually, there's a whole, I can't remember how many videos there are now, probably close to 20 videos on the TVR restoration or recommission. So I got into that instead, and that took what I thought was going to take maybe 6 months, took about 2 years. So this has been set up. I have turned it over every now and again. So the plan is 2 litre in the van. I'm aiming for about 200 horsepower, and let's get stuck into it. So first off, before I jack it up and everything, I'm just going to take all the front end off and just store it in the back of the van, and maybe the bonnet, and take some of the easy items off, like the intercooler hoses, all that sort of thing, before I jack it up and start dropping fluids, etc. So that's all the lights and grill and stuff off. You can see now the intercooler there in the front, which is way too big for this engine, but will be perfect for the 2 litre. Interesting fact, the little rubber elbows here are actually off, I think, an R33 Skyline. Little fact for you there. I think they were I wanted a really tight bend, and they were the cheapest ones I could find on eBay, I think. So yeah, I'll probably take the intercooler pipes off now, although I might have to drop the fluid to get the radiator out of the way. I just took the cap off just to see what coolant's in there, and it's gone real weird. It's like all crystallised. It's only sat since March, so about 9 months-ish. There's still, it's fine in there. It's just on the radiator there. Bit weird, but although it matters because it's coming out anyway. But just thought I'd share. Does mean I could probably there's probably nothing in this top post, so I can get that out of the way at least, and I can take all the carbon stuff off just to make life easier getting it out, which is alright. So I just figured I might as well just take the bonnet right off. It makes life a bit easier. And then next up, I can take all the hoses off, like drop the coolant, that sort of thing. And then all the wires, and go from there. So I got the carb off now. I'm going to try and take it all out with the turbo on it, because it's not a very heavy engine anyway. Obviously just have to undo the exhaust there. And so I'm going to jack it up now and probably drop the coolant if I can find something to put it in, and then take the rad out and that sort of thing.
you turning on?
Come out. A bit more loosenings.
Can I do a noise?
Can you do it? Yeah.
Sham, sham, sham. Sham, 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 sham. Snee, snore, snappy.
Snappy, snappy, snoo. What fucking was that?
That's the generation we live in, that's what that is, isn't it? Making some lovely sounds. And the grotty panels off. That's me, isn't it?
No leaks.
Fucking everything's that.
What do you say then?
Only a little bit of an oil. Nah, it's fine. Uses a tiny bit of oil.
Loses slight oil.
Yeah.
Slight oil losing. Okay, so now that I've got the sump guard off, I can undo the drive shafts, and then it should just be engine mounts holding it on, hopefully. So that's where we are. Oh, I almost forgot the gear link has just got to come up as well. Wouldn't get very far with that connected. So I'm just getting the crane in position. The rear engine mount as well, which I kind of forgot about. The gearbox one ties into the cross member. That was just 2 bolts, so I just took them out already. So I shouldn't have to go underneath to get anything out. I've loosened up all the through bolts through all of these sort of cotton reel type mounts. It's well over mounted, this engine, in my opinion, but I mean, seems to be too many engine mounts for such a tiny little engine, but they're obviously there for a reason. It's all that power and torque from the A series, you see. So I'm just going to put the crane in now and get it all tied up, and hopefully take the weight, undo all the mounts, and then it should lift out. So everything's undone now. All the bolts are out, it's supported by its own weight. However, I've got about 7% battery, so we'll see how far I get. Just half of this engine mount, which you can take off, makes that makes it come out a lot easier. Still got battery. Leak some water. What's that? It's just hanging up from that. Now we're farming. Now we're farming. So there she is, old engine out, released from the bay, the oily and mucky bay of the leaky A series. She's done me proud. with the little spooler on the side. Completely, you know, it was a rebuilt engine, but rebuilt to NA, and with just the little head gasket spacer in there. After I blew up the first one, she's been boosting 10 psi for probably about 4 or 5 years now. Loving it, ripping. So, but it's time for the van to get some proper power in it. But yeah, it's that's a slight milestone. Engine out. Happy days. So that's about it for today's episode. Old engine is out. Now I've just got to clean up the bay, and I might test fit the new engine and box and see what mounts it needs, see what drive shafts, etc. But I'm happy I got the old one out. Now we can move on to the next step.